Welcome to the Outsmart Burnout podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Zarya Rubin, a functional medicine doctor, an international speaker, and a burnout badass because I've been there myself. After walking away from my own high-stress medical career, I discovered how to break free from burnout to reclaim my passion, purpose, and joy. And now I'm here to help you do the same. From science-backed tips to time-saving hacks, and hopefully some aha moments that just might change your life. So sit back, relax, and let's do this. Welcome to Outsmart Burnout, the podcast for high-achieving women who are done with hustle culture and are ready to create success on their own terms. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Sausha Davis. She's a mama of four, founder of Sales Mama, and a passionate mentor helping women build sustainable sales strategies that don't lead to burnout. With her signature program, Sales Mama School, Sausha empowers entrepreneurs to systematize their business, scale with structure, and sell like a mother, all while staying present for the life they love. So if you've ever felt the pull between purpose and pressure, or that you had to choose between business success and your sanity, this episode is for you. I'm glad you liked that intro, Sausha.
I was like, you nailed it. Nailed it. So thank you for that.
We do try hard over here at Outsmart Burnout to nail the intros and make sure that we make everyone feel welcome and part of our family. You know, this is a little bit of a different episode for us because we usually focus kind of more on the medical or the psychological or the mindset aspect of burnout. But as a small business owner myself, as a mompreneur, as a solopreneur, this is such an important topic, because I think a lot of us burn out in conventional careers and whatever careers or jobs we had. And then we pursue small business or entrepreneurship thinking it's going to maybe be better, more freedom, more flexibility, etc. But then we find ourselves theoretically and literally working 24/7. So this is a perfect conversation to have, especially at the start of a new year. Tell us all the things. How did you come to this business, to found Sales Mama? And talk to us a little bit about your burnout journey, because I know it's going to be informative for all of this.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I do want to just caveat here with I know you had mentioned the medical side of things, the holistic side of things, the mindset side of things. And I think speaking in general, we have this overall mindset that burnout is okay, like burnout is normal. And so I think a lot of times we'll learn that pattern in one area of our life and then apply that same pattern in other areas of our lives without consciously knowing it. It's very similar to when maybe we leave one career and it's that phrase of you always take you with you. Well, if you're burned out in this area of your life and you don't really get to the root of what that burnout is and the triggers of what that burnout is and how to really rewire your brain and learn to slow down. And that slowing down is also safe because a lot of us are in that danger zone all the time. And that danger zone is really what is the norm for us. Even though it's not safe, it feels safe because it becomes normal. We take that with us into our next career or entrepreneurial journey or into motherhood or into these other areas of our life. And it's that muscle and we just start flexing it. And so we need to learn a different way. And so I've applied a lot of the things that I have learned about my own burnout journey into business. And so to answer your question, I did not come from an entrepreneurial family. I actually grew up in what you would, I mean, I didn't even know it at the time, but I guess we were poor. I was just telling, I'm actually in the process of writing a book, which is a whole nother story for another day. But I was speaking with my author coach yesterday and she was asking me some questions and I was sharing with her that, to heat our house, we had to chop firewood for like the entire month of September and October, well, August and September, so that we had enough firewood to get through the winter. And like that was normal for us. I didn't know that that wasn't normal. And we didn't have air conditioning. So when me and my husband bought our first house and we had central air, I was like, this is luxury, you know? And so I see people that, people look at me today and where I'm at now, and they say the must be nice or trust fund baby or her husband must have a really good job, not realizing that I literally heated my house with wood because there was no other choice. You know, like that's what type of childhood I grew up with. And, we had a well that was really old and we ran out of water all the time, like all the time. So, but that was really what life was like growing up. And so to fast forward quite a bit, had landed in a corporate job. I had this concept that I would always tell myself, like, what would a normal person do? Because I just had a very abnormal childhood and very abnormal start to life. And so I kept telling myself, what would a normal person do? What would a normal person do? Normal person would graduate high school, they would go to college, they would get a corporate job, they would follow the American dream, And this was my way
Yeah.
of staying out of trouble because I always getting into trouble. I was always doing the things you shouldn't be doing. And so I found myself in this corporate job in sales, and I had that corner office and I was working 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was in corporate manufacturing. The phone never stopped ringing. I climbed my way into corporate management. And that was just normal. They tell you it's a 9 to 5. It is not a 9 to 5. It is a
Nope.
5 a.m. to a 9 p.m. It's a 5
It's
to
5
9.
to 9.
It is not. And so I did that for quite a while, and then I got pregnant with my first child and started to have some thoughts about now this is not going to be sustainable when this baby comes into the world. And so I started to have doubts about, like, I don't want to pay somebody else to raise my child. And I was starting to experience that burnout, like self-care non-existent. Like what was self-care? Like that just did not even, I lived on, at that time before I got pregnant, I lived on nicotine and caffeine. Like I was a smoker, I drank Red Bulls all the time. And then I got pregnant and like stopped all of it because, I was pregnant and growing a baby at that time. And like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? So I had that come into Jesus. And when I went back to work, I had decided I was going to leave. And that's when I had left and started my own coaching and consulting. And I told myself that I wanted to do things differently. And so that's really where we ended up here today. And that was about 10 years ago. Now, there has been a lot that has happened in those past 10 years.
Yeah, 3 more
But
babies.
there's been, more babies and some moves across the country and, a lot of things that have happened in those 10 years. But that was really like my first big experience with burnout was in that corporate environment where like there is no time for yourself. And I didn't even realize that, even prior to that, like I was burnt out when I was in college. I was a full-time college student and I worked 3 jobs just to be able to pay for college because, again, I came from a family that didn't have money and I didn't qualify for student loans. I didn't qualify for any of the things. And so, again, working 24/7, going to school, and that was just normal for me. I didn't recognize that it was burnout. And, your cortisol levels are through the roof. My thyroid levels were off the charts. I mean, everything in my body was whacked, but I didn't realize it at the time until after I had my daughter.
Wow.
I'm sure
So
you have
how
tons of.
did you put all the pieces together in retrospect and finally realize, okay, yeah, I was suffering from burnout, or I'm burned out now, or now I have this baby and I finally stopped everything and now I'm not functional.
Yeah. So I think back to after I had my first child, and about a year after that, I started to have some severe physical symptoms in my body. And I normally didn't have that, but I started to slow down enough to where now you can start to pay attention to those things because when you're in burnout, you're really in this fight or flight response almost all the time to where your adrenaline is so high that you just don't really at least for myself, you're just go, 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 that you just learn
Yeah,
to tune
you're
out.
running on fumes, and
Yep.
that check engine light, you can ignore it. You just ignore it, you put tape over it, you keep driving.
Yeah. So I didn't recognize what that was before. And so when I started to work for myself and recreate the life that I wanted to have, I started to have these down moments. And in these down moments, I was like, I'm experiencing some things. Like, what is going on? And so I went the traditional route of going to medical doctors and things like that. And I found out this is, again, a whole nother rabbit hole, but I had hormonal issues. I had like my thyroid was out of whack, like all of these things. And the thing that I had found was that nobody could figure out why. Everything's out of whack, but nobody could figure out why. I'm like, well, why is this way? Why is this way? Oh, well, that's just because. Like, well, because isn't an answer. So that's what really started me on this healing journey. And so then my own internal healing journey, and I recognized at that point that stress, overwhelm, burnout, all of these things were now symptoms of all of the years that I have been pushing and grinding and going and living off of caffeine and nicotine and 4 hours of sleep and just constant chronic stress that was normal. Like that was my normal for 30 years of my life. Even as a child, I lived in chronic stress because of how I grew up. But that was my quote unquote normal because that's what my temperature gauge was set at. And so anything outside of that seemed unsafe or unnatural because my body was not used to that. My mind was not used to that. And so as I started to learn more about overwhelm, stress, burnout, trauma, all of these things, it was like, wow, this is where it's at.
This is so fascinating because, I mean, we sort of, in some ways, couldn't have come from more different backgrounds, and yet we have the exact same story.
I knew you'd like
Traumatic
this.
childhood, insane career in medicine as a physician, perfectionist, insane hours, overworked, underpaid, completely burnt out, completely stressed, chronically, insomnia, anxiety, cortisol through the roof. Had a baby, all the wheels fell off, diagnosed with severe thyroid disease. And again, no answers as to why. I was so healthy and doing all the right things.
And everybody else probably thought you had your stuff together. They were like,
Oh,
"Oh,
yes.
yeah, she's got it
Yes.
together, blah,
She's
blah, blah,
got it all together. No, I didn't. And I had already burned out in medicine.
blah."
And then
Mhm.
I was burning out again in motherhood because, like you said, once you burn out once you burn out in one sphere of your life, you're prone to burnout in another. And so finally, yeah, the only thing that I could put it all down to was chronic stress and trauma. And there you go. There you have it. You
Yes.
heard it here first. So you
Yeah,
could come from very different backgrounds and origin stories, but the path ultimately leads down that same crappy road.
it does.
But we were able to turn it around. So tell us how you were able to sort of heal and then found your own business.
Yeah, so when I left my corporate career, I mean, I had always been a leader in some capacity. And it took me a long time to be able to even say that with confidence because people would always say, "Oh, Sasha, you're such a natural leader. You're such a natural this, you're such." But for me, I was like, "Oh, whatever. No way." I'd always downplay it. And so even for me to say that now is very healing in and of itself because I would have never said that in the past. I'd be like, "Oh, psh, no, no way." But so I had left my corporate career and started my own coaching and consulting. I just decided, you know what? Come hell or high water, I'm going to make this work. Like, I'm going to make this work. And I didn't really know what it was going to be or how it was going to be, but I knew that I could help people. And so I thought I wanted to start in the realm of health and wellness. I am not cut out to teach health and wellness, although I did it for almost a year. But
Girl, I'm not cut out to teach sales. So better you than me. And there you go. So we're.
To each their own, but it was so funny because even though I did it for almost a year, out of all of the clients that I did have, because I went like, I went and I got my personal training certification. I did a lot of the things, to also kind of help with that. And I had done really well in that first year. I mean, I had, for starting off on my own, I think I made like $60,000 that first year just in coaching. And that's more than most people do in like their third year. And so I did pretty well in that first year, but what had happened is most of the people came to me and then they're like, well, how did you do this business? So I'm coaching people in their health and wellness and mind, body, spirit. And then they're also asking me about career and business stuff. And so I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. And so I pivoted pretty quickly back to the, sales and business and marketing stuff after like year two. And I've been doing that ever since. But anyways, when I got diagnosed with the thyroid stuff, I remember going into the doctor and they were like, you have to go to the hospital right now and get like a sonogram or whatever done of your thyroid. And so I go in and they're like, your thyroid's like 4 times the size that it's supposed to be. We think you have cancer. And I was like, what? Why would you say that to somebody without
Mm.
having any actual evidence of it? So then they send me home with all of these pamphlets about thyroid cancer and like getting my
My
thyroid
gosh.
removed and having to do these like radioactive treatments and having to be on levothyroxine for the rest of my life and blah, 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 blah. And so come to find out, it wasn't cancer. I just had ridiculously high, off the chart. I think it was T4 or something like that. I don't even remember at the time.
Same.
Same? Yeah, isn't
Same.
that wild? And so I'm like, I refuse to, because they were trying to still talk me into getting my thyroid removed. And I was like, absolutely not. There has to be another way. Like, this is not the solution. I need to know why. And then that sent me down this holistic healing approach, which I had no idea what energy healing was. I didn't know anything about apothecary. I didn't know anything about anything. But it sent me down an entirely different path because I am that challenger, I'm that rebel. And so if you can't answer my questions, like I'm going to find an answer to my question. So
Yep.
they almost forced me to go in this other direction. So I started seeing the chiropractors, which that's not even that like, it is a different holistic. I mean, there's some people that won't even go to a chiropractor, but I started going to the chiropractors and getting everything adjusted so that everything would flow freely through me. I would go see the acupuncturist. I started getting regular massages. I started going to a Reiki energy practitioner. I started seeing a trauma therapist. I learned that by suppressing a lot of your emotions and not speaking your truth, that your emotions can actually get clogged in certain energy centers in your body, which can then manifest into the form of dis-ease. And so, funny enough, the more I spoke my truth, the less I had to take levothyroxine. And within 2 years, I actually did not have to take medication anymore. And I'm not saying that anybody just needs to like go out there and stop taking medication. I mean, I did a lot of different things. I
Yeah.
changed my diet. I started eating healthier. Obviously, I quit smoking. I don't drink. I work out pretty regularly. I get regular sunshine. I drink plenty of water. I sleep well. I do all of the things, but I also started doing some of these trauma healing things too. And I haven't been on thyroid meds for like 6 years now. And the doctors are like, what have you been doing? I'm like, well, all of this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was part of the healing journey and the burnout stuff. And so I'm like, if I could heal this by slowing down and being mindful and, meditating and journaling and, working through a lot of these big emotions that I didn't know I had, I wonder what other pathways are available to me to, be able to expand. And then I started to apply that to the business side of things too, because people, I'm experiencing this aftermath, if you will, from a corporate job. And one of the things that I was seeing is I was building my business differently, but so many people left their corporate jobs to become an entrepreneur. But they took, again, those same exact burnout skills and
Yep.
started to apply them to entrepreneurship and wondered why they felt so shitty in entrepreneurship.
Exactly. So tell us about some of the things that you discovered in terms of strategy. I know you talk about strategy and you talk about systems and how systems are a strategy and how incorporating those things can really help business owners having more easeful experience of being an entrepreneur and not be constantly in that hustle mode, but still be successful and still make sales?
Yeah. So I really have 4 pillars that I break things down into, and it is strategy, support, systems, and spirituality. Like those are like the main 4 pillars that I teach within. And so when I think of systems, I think of things that can be automated, things that can be simplified. And so I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of them are solo, or they only have maybe a few people that are helping them. Maybe there's a few contractors or something like that helping them. And there's little things that are automated. There's little to nothing that is automated. And you can automate so many things in your business. You don't want to automate you, like, do not take you out of your business, but you can have nurture sequences. You can have booking links. You can batch out your content. There is so many things that you can do that free up your time, and creating SOPs for a lot of the things that you do. So, like systems and processes for the things that you do on repeat. So, if you do something more than once or twice per week, create an SOP for it. Write it down, do a video for it. And everybody's like, oh, this is so boring. This is so stupid. But what ends up happening is people will do something once and then they'll forget how they do it, or they'll try to hire somebody and they don't know how to train that person, or they don't know how to offload or delegate that. And that's exactly what that document is for. And so if we don't have standardized processes for how to run our business, it is damn near impossible for you to go and scale that. Okay. Because then everybody's doing it a little bit this way, or a little bit that way, or a little bit this way. And great, fine. Everybody has their own tweaks of things, but you cannot scale something that is not repeatable, that is not duplicatable. And that is why we want to have systems and processes and automations. So that is really that component of it. Now, the next part of that is going to be that like sales part, that support part, that strategy part. And so what I say is, you don't have a business without sales. Like, you just have a really expensive hobby. Like, and a lot of people are like, I have a business. I have a business. I'm like, okay, well, how much did you profit last year? And then they're, don't want to tell me. I'm like, okay, so you really just have an expensive hobby. And so I tell people, don't be afraid of sales. Sales is just a service. And if you come at it the right way, you're just solving somebody's problem. You're not trying to convince somebody of something they don't need. You're trying to help solve somebody's problem. And so how I phrase this to somebody is, when you can enhance your sales and marketing skills, you can take those same 10 hours in a week that you may be taking sales calls. And so somebody will come to me and they'll work with me. And let's say they have a 20% close rate. They take 10 calls that week. They're going to close 2 clients. But then they work with me and we improve their sales skills. We improve their marketing skills. And so now we have people closing on autopilot because of our automations and our funnels. So we have people closing on our low ticket offers on repeat without us having to do anything. So there's some more profit by not doing anything. And then we're improving our sales skills so that now your close rate is 50 or 60%. So that same 10 hours, you have now doubled, if not tripled, your profit, your revenue. Well, your revenue, not your profit, because it depends on what your profit margins are. But
Right.
you've doubled your revenue in those same amount of time. And so when we increase our sales skills and our marketing skills, you can improve. There's so much you can do without necessarily having to do more, hustle more, work more. And if we had this, if hustling more and working more made us rich, everybody I know would be millionaires. Everybody I know would be billionaires. You know what I mean? But that's not how it works. So,
Right, right.
and I can
Oh
go
my
into the
gosh.
other 2 as well, but those are the 2
I
main ones that we focus on.
Yeah, you can actually change the time is money equation. I love that. And so that leads into my next question, which is your powerful phrase that you use often, which is sell like a mother. Now, how does that mindset shift help women kind of reframe and determine how they show up in their business and not burn out?
Yes. So Traditionally speaking, many sales trainers are men. They're men in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And typically speaking, men have a single way of thinking. They're mostly a certain type of personality when it comes to sales personalities. And I'll talk to you about this. I'll go deeper into this here in just a second. But for your listeners, I'm sure they're aware that men run on a 24-hour hormone clock, whereas women run on more of a 28-day calendar, right? We kind of follow the moon phases, follow the moon
Yep.
cycles. And so we are emotional beings by nature. And so we can use that as a superpower. We can use our empathy as a superpower. And so when we start to capitalize on that, and use our personalities and our empathy to really tune in, tap into what our buyers want and need, we can then really enhance our sales skills and abilities and help even more people versus selling like that old outdated sales methodology that works for most men. It works for most men and it works for those in corporate environments, I will say. Okay, because it's very like black and white, very rigid. And so the way that I work is one, we're family friendly. So that's one thing that I always talk about is, I live an integrated life. It's okay if your children see you work. It's not it's not this like shameful thing that your mother works. It's actually something that can be very empowering, to see for your kids to see. My kids are always bragging at school like, "My mom runs sales, mama." I'm like, "Oh my god." They're like,
So
"When I
cute.
grow up, I'm gonna work at Sales Mama." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." It's funny, but at the same time, I'm like, "Oh, the parents are looking at me." But, one of the things that I teach is, a methodology called, the GEMS method, and it's taught by Danny Johnson, and I don't know if she teaches it anymore, but I learned it about, 8 or 10 years ago, and so the concept is that there are different buyer and seller personalities, and so when we learn more about these different buyer-seller personalities, we can really start to emphasize how we interact with people and how we take them through the client journey. And so, for example, most men and those outdated sales trainings that we see are what I would call an emerald style of sales training, which is very black and white. It's very data driven. It's very stats driven. It's very direct, I will say. And so that doesn't always work for most women because women have more of an empathetic, emotional buyer type. And so there's three other buyer personalities. There's a ruby, there's a sapphire, and there's a pearl. And I find that most women are in those categories. There are women that are also in emerald or have emerald as a secondary, but most women are in those other three. And so a ruby is going to be that bold, driven, wants to win, likes the VIP experience, likes high touch experience, wants the best of the best, wants you to get to the point, doesn't really like you to beat around the bush, like that type of buyer. A sapphire is me. I'm actually a sapphire ruby. So a sapphire is very high energy. We want to know who else is in the room? What's going to happen? How's this going to change my life? What's the bigger picture? Is there any bonuses? That type of stuff. And then the pearl is going to be your person who is very heart led, very community driven, very save the whales, save the babies. How is this going to make a bigger impact for the world type of buyer? And they all have different buying patterns. And so when I teach these philosophies to women specifically, since they're so empathetic, they can tune in to what the other person is and not saying they're being a chameleon,
Right.
changing who they are, but
Because
we
you're
can then
tailoring your style
exactly.
and your pitch and your delivery of your message.
Exactly. And it's so much more natural. And you can shift your energy and you can change your tone and you can use different language. If I, for example, as a sapphire, I have to tone down my energy when I'm talking to a pearl, somebody who is very heart centered, because a lot of times I can be very overwhelming for them. They're like, "Man, you are a lot." And then when
I
I talk,
think I might be sapphire too.
you're sapphire too. So I usually have to tone it down a little bit, or if I'm talking to an emerald, I have to not talk about, oh, it's going to be so fun or it's, the big vision this or big vision that. I'm like, this is my success rate. These are my stats. This is my data. This is, the close rate. This is, so I'm going to talk more about the actual details versus how it's going to make them feel.
That's a really cool way of looking at it. What is one sales myth that is burning women out that you would want them to know about? And what do you want them to believe instead?
Gosh, the thing that I think is burning people out is that sales is gross and that sales is icky. And so they just avoid it completely. And when that ends up happening, they know they need to do it, but they don't do it. And so it just takes up brain space and they think about it and they think about it and they think about it and they will do everything else except for the one thing that they need to do. But if they just learn how to do sales differently and do that first, the whole concept of eat the frog, they can get so much done in 5 hours. Like, I work 9 to 2, like, that's my working hours, and then the rest of the time is with my family or, doing I live on a ranch, so, I mean, we do a lot of other stuff too,
Amazing.
that I'm not stressing about my sales activities because 'cause I've already done them.
How do you help women overcome that fear of being visible, that fear of feeling icky or salesy or, forcing themselves to be something they're not?
Yeah. So one of the first things that we do is we actually go back to their first memory of a sales experience that felt icky for them. And so we have to figure out where it came from first and why they think that. And so we have to go back before we can go forward. And so that's one of the very first things that we do because we all have one. We all think of one where we're like, that person made me not. And so we need to find a way to process that because for whatever reason that's stuck within you and that is not you. That's not yours to hold anymore. You are not that salesperson. So we need to bless and release. We need to find a way to let go of that old story so that we can replace it with a new story. So that's one of the first things that we do. And then I take them through the entire methodologies to see which one resonates with how they sell and then figuring out who their buyer is. And then we do a lot of role play on that too.
Love it. So you mentioned that you live on a ranch, which is so cool, and then you have 4 kids.
I do.
So I can't even fathom like how you do it all and so how do you manage to juggle all the things and model resilience and balance and, boundaries for yourself and your family?
Yeah. I think it took me a long time to understand balance because people make it seem like everything's equal. And I think that that's a bunch of crap. Like, it's not ever going to be perfectly balanced. And so there are days where my scale tips more towards business. And then there's days where my scale tips more towards family. And then there's days where it is kind of teetering in the middle. And so that over the entire year is balanced, but it's not
Yeah.
a complete balance at all times. And so I think of it as me walking like this tightrope where, it's just a little bit of everything, but I'm trying to just keep it all, in a line. But it all starts with making time for myself. And this was one of the hardest things that I had to learn because I just, for whatever reason, didn't. Like, I just didn't. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. Oh, yeah, I'll get to it. It wasn't that I
We're
didn't
always last on our own list.
always, I'm like, oh, I'll have time. I'll have time. I'll have time. It's like this thing that I'm always like, I'll have more time. I'll have more time. I'm like, no, it's never just going to come out of anywhere. So I found that if I don't make time for myself in the morning, it will not happen. It will not happen. And so I actually did an experiment on myself years ago where for an entire week, I had anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to myself in the morning. And I tracked my mood and my food intake and like all the things throughout the day. And then I did a week where I did not take an hour for myself and I just went straight into work. Oh my gosh. I mean, I tracked like on a scale from 1 to 10. How am I feeling? Like, how much am I eating? I was like, I made more sales the week that I like took care of myself first. I took my kids to the park. All the things, right? The week after, I still did things, but I did everything with anger, with
Mm,
resentment, or I went all day without eating because it was like, oh, I forgot to do this. And then it was like that pattern repeated. And
because you're
so,
you're running on fumes, you're pouring
ex-
from an empty cup. You're not filling yourself up first and then
exactly.
giving.
And so I thought about it and I was like, I don't leave my house with my phone on 10%. You know,
Right?
I don't start a road trip with an empty tank of gas. Like, why am I trying to go through my day expecting to be at my best when I haven't even done anything to fuel myself? And so when I thought about it in that regard, it was like, well, duh, you need to do something for you in order to then show up 100% for everybody else. Otherwise, they're just getting a half-ass version of me. And that's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to my kids. It's not fair to my, my animals, my clients, like my community. Like, it's honestly kind of selfish, if I'm being honest, to not take, because they're just getting a really awful version of me then.
I have been meaning to institute a morning routine for myself for so long. The struggle is real because I am so not a morning person. So my morning routine right now basically consists of hitting snooze on the alarm clock.
Oh, yeah, there.
Full disclosure, full disclosure. Yeah, it's the struggle is real, but you're inspiring me to maybe give it a shot, and I'm gonna have to maybe
Can I
go
recommend
to bed earlier.
Can I recommend a book?
Yeah, sure.
So a book that I read years ago was called The Miracle Morning.
Oh my gosh, I have it. I have the
Do
book.
you?
I have it. I
It's
haven't read it, but it's on my
such,
shelf.
such a simple book, such a simple concept. But seriously, there's a part in there where it's like, if you just do each of these things for 1 minute or 2 minutes, it will change your whole day. And that's what I started with. Like, I started doing each of those things because he talks about the Savers program. So it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, read, and scribe, which is journaling. And he's like, just do everything for 2 minutes. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I can do 2 minutes. I can do a minute. And I started there. And then but I still do that. I literally have it on my phone. I have it in my, I have this habit app and I have it to where I just check. It's still to this day, like 7 years later, I still do
Wow.
that.
Okay, you've inspired me. Okay, we're gonna do something new that we've never
Okay,
done on the podcast
let's
before,
do it.
but I felt like trying it, and it's called Rapid Fire.
I love it. Let's do it.
So, number one, what's your burnout red flag?
Ooh, anger for sure. Like, I am very short, very snippy. I am like a total, like, oh man,
Yep,
that's my
love
burnout
that.
one. Or I say, I need a vacation.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yep, love it. Okay, what's one business tool you can't live without?
So mine is my CRM platform, Simplero. It does my website, my membership site, my landing page. It's like an all in one. And I've been using it for like 3 or 4 years. Most people have like piecemeal everything together and like everything's all in one. And it is like a total time saver.
I haven't heard of that one. I'm gonna check that one out. What is your favorite way to recharge? That is not work, of course. You just spoke to my Sagittarius heart, so I love that. My
If you're
gosh.
ever in Oregon, come ride horses with me.
Okay, well, I am in Oregon. Wait, I'm in Portland. Wait, where are you? This is crazy.
Oregon.
I'll probably cut this part out, but like, wait, where are you in Oregon?
Southern Oregon.
Where?
Just outside of Medford, like in Eagle Point.
God, I mean, I'm never down there. I mean, I went on the Rogue once and we all almost died, so like never going again. But
Gosh, this
but
is too
that's
funny.
so crazy. If you're ever in Portland, come
You know
find
what?
me.
I think we're actually gonna come up and go to the zoo in like a few months.
I live 5 minutes from the zoo, so give me a call.
Totally gonna we'll totally have to meet up.
That is so fun because I know all the best food. That is crazy. My God. Okay.
I love
Now
it.
I need to regroup now. How did I not know that? I was like, I think I did know that at some point. I was like, wait, she's in Oregon. Oh, wait, she's really far from me. But because I was like, oh, we should hang out. She's so cool. And then I was like,
Totally.
Ranch, that's not Portland.
No, not Portland.
Okay. Oh yeah, a friend of mine who like she taught me this trick that you say elephant, and that means that like that's when you cut the podcast or that's when you go back. But now I've screwed it up. But like if you say elephant, it means you have to edit there. Like then the editor knows that that's when you chop it. But
I like that.
actually, Riverside is very good at like realizing. Oh wait, that part needs to be cut. Okay, back to last rapid fire. What is one thing that every woman needs to stop doing in 2026?
Shoulding theirself. That's like the biggest thing. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Just either do the thing or let it go.
We should all over ourselves. That is so true. I am so guilty of that.
Too.
And I should stop doing it and I will stop doing it. So
That's
I
yeah, I'd
love
say
this.
stop saying should, and it's either I will or I won't, and just replace it. It's either I'm going to do it or I'm just it let it go and don't even think about it anymore. It's like replace should, like get rid of should out of your vocabulary and use a different word that has more concrete meaning to it. So
Yeah.
I will or I will not. And then you'll start to actually move in a direction instead of sitting there ruminating on something that you think you should do or not.
This is so good. And now I got one more because this is so good.
Yeah.
If there's somebody listening, if there's a woman listening to the show today and she feels like she's kind of drowning in her business, what's the first step that she should take to, stop the overwhelm and really kind of outsmart burnout?
So, the first thing that I always recommend is a time audit. And what I mean by that is actually writing down what you are doing throughout your day and throughout your week. And what you will realize is you are doing a lot of unnecessary, not needle moving activities like playing around on Canva or scrolling Instagram for inspiration on Reels or replying to a bunch of ridiculous emails that have nothing to do with what you're actually doing. And so you will see all of the time that you are quote unquote wasting that could be intentional time used for sales and marketing that are profit and revenue generating, and then get back so much more of your day to then spend on yourself and your family.
Love it. Time audit. So if folks want to do a time audit or more, if they want to learn more about you, work with you, check out Sales Mama, check out the Sales Mama School. This was such an amazing episode. I have had so much fun, but please tell our listeners how they can find you and connect with you. We're going to put everything, of course, in the show notes. But yeah, what's the best way to get in touch?
So I'm pretty active over on Instagram. I have my personal brand page, Sausha.Davis. It's SAUSHA.DAVIS. And then I have all of my Sales Mama content over at Sales Mama School on Instagram. But you can find me anywhere, LinkedIn, YouTube. I also have a podcast, the Sales Mama Podcast. And I have lots of free advice, free quizzes, things like that on my site, salesmama.biz. So if you're wondering, like what sales personality you are, there is a quiz on there. I do twice a month free live trainings. So folks really seem to enjoy those. And then I also have more information about Sales Mama School on my site as well.
Oh my gosh, amazing. You guys, this was an incredible episode. It was so full of heart and so full of insights and practical tips. So make sure that you share this episode with a biz BFF, one of your girlfriends, a business owner, somebody that you know who is struggling with chronic stress and overwhelm, because I really think that, if Sausha has taught us anything today, and she taught us a lot, is that you can build a profitable business without sacrificing your peace, your time, your sanity, or your family, and certainly without burning out. So, yeah, check her out. All the information's in the show notes. Please like, subscribe, leave us a review, share the show. It really does help us reach more listeners and more women who really need this advice. And last but not least, remember, burnout is not your destiny. It's your wake up call.